Hey, English 104 students, it's Cody Miller. I am here with the video about the Persuasive Research Essay Unit and largely the Persuasive Research Essay instructions to get us going into that unit because largely today and tomorrow, if you were on a Tuesday, Thursday class, was meant to be an introduction to that unit. So we're going to carry forward in that fashion. So I will share my screen with you here so that I can see what you see. So if you go into Unit 3, you will see that Unit 3 is now open for you, the Persuasive Research Essay. We also have that distance online learning material section, which is growing as we speak. That's partly where this video will be posted, is right in here. But we're going to focus our attention on the Persuasive Research Essay instructions for Spring 20. And that is that Microsoft Word document right below the label, which says Persuasive Research Essay Instruction Sheet and Rubric Sheet. The rubric sheet is right down here. There will be largely just a quick video that addresses that a little bit later in the unit. But for now, we're going to cover those instructions together to make sure that you understand what it is that I'm asking for in the Persuasive Research Essay and throughout this unit, and some of the skills that we'll be focusing on as we continue to cover different aspects of the paper. So overall, a couple things that I want you to remember for this is that it is 20% of your overall grade. This kind of acts as our final for the course. If you look at the very, very bottom of the assignment sheet right here, it does say that if we are back in person, meaning meeting face to face at the end of the semester, then you'll hand in both a hard copy as well as an electronic copy to me on Moodle. If we are not back in person, then what we will do is largely submit it on Moodle by the due date, and I will grade it accordingly. We've also have an area down at the very bottom that says things to remember, and then we have all the different requirements, the nitty-gritty, so to speak, in the middle. So what is this paper all about? Well, it's about taking the topic that you have developed in the first part of the semester in that research proposal area and pushing it to the next level. It's taking that idea along with your research that you've done in the annotated bibliography unit, and then combining them together into a persuasive research essay and argument. So largely this whole paper is an academic structure that walks us through a logical progression of critical thinking, using sources to persuade your audience to believe whatever it is that you are debating and where your stance is on that side. So we're going to be engaging with all different types of things. We're going to be engaging with the Aristotelian rhetorical tools, meaning ethos, pathos, and logos. We'll go all the way back to those. You started thinking about those with your annotated bibliography near the end of each one of those entries. We're going to talk about the structure of thesis statements. We did that in the research proposal, so a lot of this stuff you'll see has been building up till now. We're going to talk about the conversation that exists around your topic and which side you ultimately fall on with that thesis. We're going to provide summaries. We're going to provide paraphrases. We're going to figure out what quoting is. We're going to figure out what in-text citations are. And we're going to look at the structure of an introduction, the structure of a body paragraph, as well as the structure of conclusion, so that you ultimately know how this whole paper fits together. So we'll learn all of those basics, including the 3 I's, which we'll talk about. So you'll notice that down here as one of those points, one of these bullet points, which is you must integrate using the 3 I's, all the information. And these are the minimum requirements, which are 6 credible outside sources. 3 of those sources need to come from the databases, and 2 of them have to be scholarly or peer-reviewed. When we're thinking about body paragraphs, we want to remember that because this is a persuasive research essay, each body paragraph needs to be using some type of source as evidence, and we don't rely just on personal experience. And that brings me partly down to this bullet point, the second from the bottom, which is we will avoid using the I throughout this, whereas in the research proposal and the annotated bib, at times we were able to use it. We will generally avoid the first person here, as well as the second person. There are some places where that is acceptable. in terms of personal experience. And we'll talk about where in different videos as well as in different activities, okay? But generally, we will avoid the I as we're going through. So we've got the minimum requirements of the a number of sources. You'll have a source within each one of your body paragraphs. We're going to talk about introductions and conclusion as a way to frame our essay overall, meaning we'll start with the general conversation, and by the end, we'll be able to make sure our reader understands what we're arguing and why we're arguing, and then what the bigger picture is. And that's partly that so what. That's right here in this bullet point. Now, many of you are probably wondering like how long the paper is. And so that's actually the first bullet point with or underneath the nitty gritty area, which is it needs to be a minimum of 6 full pages. That means you spill on to the 7th. We can think back to those journal entries. And what I will tell you overall is that it is difficult to pass this paper with higher than, the minimum of 73.4. If you're only writing 3 body paragraphs, that generally will not get you. It's very rare get you to the 6 full pages. So you want to think 6 full pages spilling on to the 7th, and that means that your works cited page, which is down here in this bullet, will largely fall on the 8th page. Nice thing is our annotated bib. If you're using those same sources, we have the entries that you've created. Those get pulled over onto your works cited page, and we have that page almost finished. Okay. Another thing that students generally are a little worried about is, the other side of the debate. So what I am asking, and you'll notice that this is the 4th bullet point on the page, I am asking you to address the main counter argument for your particular debate. So when you take your stance, there will always be one counter argument that is the major one that's fighting against you. Now, can you actually have more than one counter argument throughout your paper? Absolutely. And would I encourage you to? Yes. But as a minimum, you need one main counter argument, and that does have to have sources throughout the paper. Okay. Or throughout that body paragraph where you're giving the overall counter argument. Okay. So as we look a little further down, we're going to work on citing, we're going to work on quoting, summarizing. We'll still continue to cover MLA. We'll talk about the 3 I's and the quote sandwich. That's something that you shouldn't necessarily know about unless you were in English 103. We'll learn a little bit about block quoting, and we'll continue to reiterate that thesis statement. But altogether, what we're doing is we're gathering our sources, those minimum of 6 sources, into a persuasive research essay of 6 to a minimum of 6 full pages, spilling on to the 7th with a solid thesis, solid body paragraphs, solid intro, and solid conclusion. Okay, so all in all, that's really what we're going to be working on. And I would encourage you, as you see this last bullet point here, I would encourage you to visit the Writing Center. The Writing Center is open during this time, but I am scratching that from our course requirement, largely because I don't want to require you to be on campus during this time, and then there may be so many students rushing in at the end. So that's no longer a requirement, but I do recommend that you go because it will generally result in a better paper by the end. All right. So that's kind of the introduction overall to the persuasive research essay. I'm going to post this video on Moodle where I showed you. So please take a look, take a listen, and take a watch. And other than that, I will see you in some more videos. Okay, thanks, guys.